Welcome to CLARITY.SHOW podcast. I'm Karyna, your host today. My guest is Andreas Welsch, an internationally recognized AI leader, advisor, founder and Chief AI Strategist at Intelligence Briefing. Andreas is a frequent keynote speaker. Andreas is an author of the AI Leadership Handbook, a practical guide, to turning technology hype into business outcomes, which we'll also cover during today's conversation. In today's episode, we will be discussing realistic expectations about what AI can do, how successfully run enterprise AI project, how human can stay at the center of AI use. Andreas, before we start, I'll let you to introduce yourself.
Thanks so much for having me, Karyna, and thanks for the opportunity to share more about this topic of how can we actually make AI practical now that everybody's talking about it so much. It's one of my most favorite topics, helping people understand that and cut through that noise of AI. And I've previously spent 23 years at SAP in different roles, the last 8 years in and around the topic of AI and machine learning and generative AI. And like I said, I'm now an independent AI advisor working with several business leaders of large corporations, helping them figure out how can we actually make this useful. So again, super excited for the opportunity to be on the show today and share more with your listeners.
I'm sharing your excitement, and in your Intelligent Briefing podcast, you also share a lot of things for AI leaders, how to turn AI hype into real outcomes and value. So let's start with our conversation, and I would like to start from the topic from your book. You cover different levels of automation: limited and advanced automation, limited and advanced autonomy. Let's give our listeners practical examples for each level of automation.
Wonderful. That's a great way to start this. Look, I see there's been so much conversation about AI, about now the new topic of agentic AI or agents that can take a goal and then figure out what are the steps I need to execute. But a lot of times we don't even have the same vocabulary of what do we actually mean? What do these things actually do? So I see this in a simple 2x2 matrix. Like I said, around autonomy and the level of automation. And historically, the way we've developed software has been pretty straightforward, rule-based. If this happens, then do that. At the same time, you have the same input and the same variables, the output will be the same. But over time, we've moved on to looking at data for patterns. So things like machine learning, which was the big hype 5, 6, 7 years ago, where we could for the first time actually analyze what are we seeing in the data? Are there correlations, right? So it gets a higher level of autonomy. Or at the same time, things like robotic process automation, RPA. Hey, I can automate repeatable steps in a process by following the same recipe. If this happens, then do that. Not as much autonomy, but a higher level of automation. And now, if you visualize this as a 2x2 grid on the top right, AI agents that are increasingly becoming more autonomous and that are able to automate many more steps in a process. So where before you were limited to, if this happens, then do that. Now these AI agents will be able to work with a lot more uncertainty. Here's a goal, go figure out how to create a marketing brief. Go figure out how to respond to that customer that is asking about the product manual for this lawnmower that they've just bought from us. So a lot more autonomy and a lot more automation.
Well, usually when business leaders asking about what is the difference, like it seems the same as this process, but previously we've done it with a code. Now you ask us to do it with, you recommend us to do it with AI algorithms and machine learning components. What the difference is? I say that main artifact of coding is code, but main artifact of machine learning is data. And this is a right statement that if we want to go a bit ahead and not just to do if and then, but allow, for example, reinforcement learning when machine learning algorithms trying to predict what will be the next step, what will be the next word in the sentence, then here AI comes into place. Well, I like your statement about this two-dimension matrix. Let's continue with the topic, and without practical examples, it's nothing in our podcast. So, AI implementation topics for business: how to choose between off-the-shelf versus open source models, because right now a lot of different options, and as you said, buzzwords: agentic process automation, robotic process automation. What to choose? Same question: what to rely on, off-shelf models or open source models? And maybe you have some recommendations on how to evaluate large language models output.
Mm-hmm. I see this oftentimes being one of the first questions when it goes down to what should our technology strategy for AI actually be, right? There are so many vendors out there, certainly some with big names and that have already become household names like OpenAI or Anthropic, but even others in the market like Meta, or formerly Facebook, right? They have made available their models in that case as open source, whereas OpenAI and Anthropic, it's more closed source. But the question to me is really how do you get to a good result fast, right? You don't need to, first of all, you don't need to create your own models. There are vendors that do this. And then when it's up to should I go closed source, should I go open source, I think on one hand, it's a matter of principle and values that you might have in your company in engineering, saying, hey, I actually want to know what went into these models. Some companies make also the weights and public, how these models have been trained and work in a sense. But the next part is just because open source models seem like they're free, you can download Meta's Llama 3.2 for free. There's a license that they need to agree to. But just because it seems like this technology is free, you also need to consider that there are infrastructure costs that you incur to host these models, to run these models. All of that is already priced into the API level pricing from OpenAI and others. So it's oftentimes an incomplete calculation to say, let's go open source because we don't pay any licenses. That might be true, but do you have the infrastructure to run it? Do you have the skills to run it and maintain it? That's usually the other question. So might be great for a quick pilot to use OpenAI. Don't need to worry about a lot of things. Probably if you're a large company scaling your customer service center and interactions with AI, maybe it makes sense to go open source and run this and host this yourself. But definitely it's an economic aspect as well that you shouldn't underestimate there.
Right. I agree with your statement about economics of usage such products and different models. And at the same time, we should consider also business goals, because if the security is the highest priority, maybe we should see something like from on-premises usage, run our own model, Llama, considering also cost of infrastructure for highest security levels.
Yes.
And if, for example, we have limited use case and limited data source, so here where we quickly can achieve results is definitely with something open source, with usage of generative AI. So everything depends on the business goals and also different priorities, KPIs that we set for our security level, for our models level, and how much data we have actually.
Absolutely.
My
Great
favorite part.
points. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. My favorite part of your book is framework for business storytelling. So today we all see that there are different levels of AI literacy. And in our business storytelling, we need sometimes to adjust depending on the level of knowledge of stakeholders in technologies. As a presenter, we need to get to the point quickly and deliver insights. What are your recommendations to get buy-in from stakeholders?
Great question. And like you said, I wrote in an entire chapter on this in the AI Leadership Handbook. So I'd recommend you get your copy on Amazon or your local book sites if you want to learn more about it. But in principle, I think there's a challenge that I see oftentimes, especially when technical teams present to a business audience, and I've been in that situation myself, right? Um, as students already from an early age on, and as children, we're taught that there's a five-step process in how stories are constructed. Maybe it's not as formal that there are five steps that we can identify that, but it's usually it's setting the scene. There are characters that are being introduced. There's some problems being introduced. The story, climbs up to its highest point. It's very dramatic. We all see this in movies, right? Heroes, battles, struggles, and then all of a sudden it fades off again towards the end. That's not the best way to tell a story in business, right? Your business stakeholders want to know, why are we here? What's in it for me? How much does it cost? Not so much of the, hey, we looked at data, we found a problem, we tried out 5 different algorithms or models. This didn't work for that reason, that didn't work for another reason. So in the end, we chose this, and here's our very methodical process. It's not this either 5-step process of how we tell a story. It's also not a scientific or research presentation where we go in all levels of detail. This is about how can how can I hook you and draw you in from the very beginning? How can I communicate with you as a business stakeholder who has limited time, probably limited attention, because I'm not the only one coming to you with my proposal in a given day or in a given week. So it's all about grabbing the attention. And there's a good framework for this AIDA, AIDA, that I describe in the book that you can apply to, again, to draw your audience in and be very specific and tangible in how you tell that story.
All right, so we will encourage our listeners to purchase your book and get to know more about this framework. And yes, definitely, speaking with stakeholders, especially with the C-level who has a limited time and want to get information directly to the point and asking where is the money,
Yes.
we need to have some additional frameworks and consideration when we are speaking about such projects as AI implementation. Many organizations actually operate still in a culture that celebrates win and rewards success. Yesterday, I had a conversation with my own team, product team, and I shared with them my personal failure, encourage them to try, to fail, and learn lessons learned. So, yet, in AI initiatives often involves failure and errors. What changes in corporate culture should leaders embrace?
That's a super important question you're asking. So I spent about 14 years in IT at SAP and in a previous smaller company, and I see that a lot of times, right, we approach AI projects as an IT project, as a data project, as a technology project, wherever AI falls into the organizational structure. And so typically leaders in these more technical organizations approach it as just another IT project, just another data project, just another tech project where we evaluate something, we see is it useful, we look for an opportunity to apply it. But really what we need to get to is indeed this part about failing and failing fast and embracing that, right? It's okay to fail because failure leads and will lead to learning, but only if we embrace it, only if we take the time to say yes. Also, let's figure out afterwards, if it wasn't successful, why has that been the case? And I think a lot of times the stakes are so high. These projects are highly visible to your senior executives. They are under pressure from their board to figure out, what are we going to do with AI? What's our AI strategy? It sounds like everybody else in the market is already doing something. We're behind, right? That there is a very high bar for success, and anything other than success in many cases can also lead to some consequences, or people fear, hey, does it lead to me not getting that promotion, me not having the same job in 3 months if this project isn't successful? And I think that's where we need to change that awareness and that perception that AI is actually not just a straightforward project like we're running them in IT or in many other tech functions. It's actually much more of a research project. We have some data, we figure out what is the business question we want and we need to answer. Do we have the right data to answer these questions? Are the results good enough? So it's a lot more iterative, and that just takes a different mindset. But it doesn't happen overnight. But through projects, also you can help shape your executives' awareness and understanding of this. Certainly, before you go in and you say, hey, here's some clear criteria for how we want to measure project success, and also some exit criteria if it's not successful. And if it's not successful, we at least draw some learnings from it and we move on to the next one. So those would be some of my recommendations to follow, and also to shift and shape a bit how we view these projects and how we view success.
But yet we should consider risks, know about possible risks, and mitigate them as much as possible. And here where the AI leaders can come into place to guide us, like experts and consultants who are working in this area can share their experience, expertise, and the sphere, and underline such possible risks. And yeah, you mentioned a lot of things that are going right now in the corporate level around AI. Like AI can be our main competitive advantage. We should apply AI to everything we can. And people have some doubts inside. Okay, we will start to use AI. Probably it will replace our day-to-day tasks. Some jobs will become redundant, and what I will do, whom I will become in this company, how my role will evolve, right? So my belief that AI is for enhancement human capacities. It's here to make us more efficient, to take our manual job, which is like less meaningful sometimes, but still by giving opportunity to do this work with AI, we have some additional capacities to do something which is more human work, like, for example, communication, decision making, problem solving, and so on. And your opinion, how can human stay at the center of AI use?
I think that's a very central question. So for those of you in the audience who are already thinking about, hey, what does it actually mean if AI is coming more to our company? How is my role going to change? I think overall change has been so frequent, and at such a rapid pace, even before AI, that as professionals in organizations and large organizations, we ultimately have to adapt to this reality that things are going to change. They're going to change regularly, frequently, and AI to me is an opportunity to adapt as well, right? So my recommendation would be see that you can learn how to use these tools to your advantage. And not everybody's on the same learning journey that you're on. Hey, ChatGPT has been out for a little more than 2 years, so not too long. Right? The vast majority of people have maybe not even used tools like ChatGPT before, or have not submitted a prompt to any of these tools. So if you're getting started now, it's not too late, right? You might be just on time because the use of these tools is picking up. But it takes a mind shift as well. We're so used to using software by clicking buttons, filling out form fields, and the software doing exactly what we want it to do. But now with generative AI, a lot of times, we are having a conversation. It's iterative, it's explorative, going back and forth with this tool. Can you help me with this? Well, I don't even know what this tool can help me with, right? It seems like the sky is the limit. Where do I even start? But if I put in a simple question or a simple instruction, maybe the result I'm getting is not so great. But luckily, there are many prompt frameworks and cheat sheets that you can take a look at and draw some inspiration from. How can I actually create some good output there and do that quickly? So it does help me become more productive and more efficient in my role. And maybe over time, much like any of us have learned to work with Outlook and Excel and Word at some point in our career, this is another tool and another way of doing this. But it does take a bit of a mind shift to say, what are actually even the questions that I can ask? How can it help me? Where are some of the limitations? But if you, again, start becoming more hands-on and use these tools on a more regular basis and make that time investment, I'm convinced you're seeing exponential returns that will help you future-proof your career as well.
Yeah, well, machine learning is not something new. It's been here for a long time. Gen AI, yes, definitely something new. It changed a lot the way how we interact with the systems. Before, we were mainly, as you said, executors. We had some actions in the system, buttons, we clicked on these buttons, and we received the results. And right now, we are communicating in human language and we provide extra instructions, and mainly we are becoming the designers of the processes. With low code, no code platform, we can configure our own workflows, our own setup of how we want to work with the process. So it's required transformation of our skills, of our capabilities, and it's required from us to learn as much as possible about prompt engineering in order to understand how to write better prompts, provide better instructions. And in your book, I found one statement, which is in the future, there won't be any prompting. Can you please comment on this? Because it sounds like very futuristic at the moment. How come we just started to learn prompt engineering and there won't be prompting? What for we are learning it right now? So can you please elaborate on it?
Sure, and I think that's another great question because indeed, if it's now about how do we interact with these tools, how do we create instructions or prompts and construct them in a way that we get good and relevant output fast, why all of a sudden are we saying, or am I saying this is going away? To me, there's going to be a natural progression where prompting moves further into the background, meaning generative AI and large language models will be integrated more and more into standard applications we use on a daily basis. You already see this in Microsoft Copilot, for example, or as SAP Joule as an assistant in Copilot there that can help you do things by just asking questions. Or if you use Canva for your social media images, you can do in-painting, right? You have an image and you say, in this little area up here, I want to create a new object with AI. But you don't need to tell Canva you're a helpful graphic assistant with 10 years of experience who specializes in photorealistic images and objects. You just say, paint a red helicopter. And a couple of seconds later, it's generated and it goes in there. So to me, that shows how prompting, on one hand, already starts moving into the background. Probably over time, it'll become more of a technical topic. So think back of programming languages like assembler, which is very close to hardware. How do we, write to memory? How do we read information from memory and these kind of things? Very few people, I would say, on a global scale, program in assembler these days, but it was one of the dominant programming languages when hardware was picking up. So I think in a similar sense, the user experience is becoming better, easier, more seamless, and prompting will become more of a technical topic. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't start prompting now. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't invest the time to learn about these tools, because it is fundamental in shaping our understanding of how do these tools work, where are the limitations, what can I even use these tools for? And this progression is not going to happen overnight. So that's a longer term progression as well over several years that I would expect to see there. So do start prompting.
Interesting use case about Canva. Now I'm curious, how does it work? Because usually as much context you provide to the prompt, is better it's understand what you need and provide something personalized for you. And seems they capture somehow our personalized needs in backend. So I'm curious to learn how does it work. All right, and 2024 is coming to the end, and everybody is trying to predict what will be the next big things, how the technology will evolve in 2025. You just participated in the AI Trajectory 2025 from Swiss Cognitive AI Navigator Insights. What should leaders look at in 2025 to maximize value from their AI projects?
So to me, it starts with a very simple thing. It's not just about AI, right? AI is not just the shiny object that you should chase, but you should start with really understanding where are we going as a company? What are our top line, our bottom line priorities and goals over the next 12 months, 36 months, something like that? And how can technology help us get there? get there faster, or help us even exceed these goals. With that in mind, you can break it down and say, well, what does it mean if we want to improve our margin? What can we do on a top line? What can we do on a bottom line? Are there maybe some processes around procurement, around finance, around HR that we can optimize with the help of technology? And maybe one of these technologies is in fact AI. If it's not, that's perfectly fine as well, right? It's all about the business goal and how can you reach that or exceed that. What I expect we'll see a lot more of next year is this topic of AI agents or agentic AI, again, where we give the software a tool, sorry, not a tool, but a goal, and we say, go figure out how to write this marketing brief. Make sure it's adequate for all the different audiences that we have here. It aligns with our brand voice. It addresses their pain points. It incorporates the benefits of our product. And when you have that, come back to me, I'll take a look, I'll give you feedback, and maybe you need to do another iteration, you AI agent. And I think that is going to be super, super powerful, but it also takes some time getting ready for this, especially on an organizational level. Because, as managers, we're used to working with people that we have on our team. Now, if all of a sudden your team and your team members have a group of virtual sidekicks, of virtual agents that can help them do something, how does it change the dynamic? Are they enabled to work with these tools correctly and appropriately? Do they know what the opportunities, the challenges, the limitations are? And what does it mean for me as a manager when I do now get work packages or work results from my team? Do I need to check them more thoroughly than before? Do I just assume that people on my team know what they're doing and they have to check it? So it also takes some expectation setting with the team as you're introducing that new technology, whether that's next year or over the coming years. But I think no matter what, if you lead technical teams or work with technical teams, asking them to start looking into this topic of AI agents will be super important for next year because they do promise to unlock new efficiencies and new productivity. Again, if we can delegate tasks to these agents that we've previously either have had to work with an external vendor on or would have had to hire more people for, there's a huge opportunity, but people are still figuring out what does it actually mean if we do move forward and if we do that. So as a leader, you need to provide some guidance. You need to listen to what your team members and employees are saying, what concerns they're voicing, and just be open and have that dialogue with them. So to me, big topic of next year, AI agents. Definitely if you believe your vendors, but also do your own evaluation and keep the people component in mind as well.
It sounds promising, 2025 as agentic year. And previously, all interfaces there, like interactions with the systems, were UI-driven. And right now, we are moving to objectives-driven. Like you need to keep in mind what you want to achieve in different tasks, workflows. You provide these objectives to agents, and you expect that they will execute it. But of course, it will require a lot of upskilling and changes in the culture, and driving these initiatives internally, evaluate them properly. And I believe that subscription-based pricing allowing us to try different things in corporate level. And if we don't like, we always can stop to use it and switch to another one. But we need to set up the clear expectations, metrics for evaluation, try proof of concepts or like 1 month, different solutions, and choose the one that brings efficiency and benefits for our team. All right. And my last question is actually the favorite one, which I've started to ask like last 2 months. If you could only choose one AI assistant, and we already covered that there are a lot of misunderstanding what is a copilot, what is an assistant, who is agent, and so on. But let's stick to this AI assistant. For your personal or professional usage, which would it be?
That's a tough one. So I use a number of different tools. I would say if there's only one that I can choose, it would probably be ChatGPT, just because it's so versatile and can work with many, many different types of media. If I had to narrow it down, I would say mid-journey for image creation, because I'm always blown away how realistic images and photos can look that you can create with a prompt, and how prompting that tool is totally different from ChatGPT or from Canva or from other tools. So if it's a general purpose tool that I cannot live without on a lonely island, it would be ChatGPT. Um, but there are many others, and there's so many new tools popping up on a weekly basis, on a daily basis, sometimes even that it's really hard to pick your favorite.
Sometimes it seems that we need agent who will guide us through different tools and say which one will fit the best to our needs, right?
That's right. Yes.
All right. Thank you so much for being with us today. It was truly a pleasure to talk to you, having you as our guest, and we hope our listeners will find this conversation as informative and enjoyable as we did. And as always, we're just one click away. Please contact us at CLARITY.SHOW. Thank you for listening and see you at the next episode.
Thank you. Bye bye.